If you're a beginner drummer frustrated by how hard it is to mix left foot technique and hand technique all together so that you can work your hi-hats and play unique musical sounds, then you're in the right place today. I'll teach you 4 unique stick sounds, but most importantly, how to consistently achieve them by using proper stick placement and angle on your hats, as well as proper left foot technique. That's kind of the elusive thing. So I'm going to show you how to do all that. You'll be able to dive into this and follow along with me. Let's do it. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out with me today. I help beginner and intermediate drummers become the musicians that others want to play with and actually want to listen to. And we do this by teaching you the core drumming skills that save you hours in the practice room and then get you results faster. And hey, if you are a beginner drummer especially, or even if you're more intermediate or pushing toward advanced, but maybe there's some holes in your coordination skill. Maybe you can't quite play everything you hear in your head. You struggle to play that kick drum pattern right that you're trying to play, and you're trying to think about one thing and then another limb's falling apart. If you feel like you're having to work too hard when you're playing the drums and you're just on the edge of train wreck, then most likely you just need to build some coordination. So I want you to check out my totally free PDF e-guide in the description. It's called 30 Days to 4-Way Rock Coordination for the Beginner Drummer. This is going to help you out a whole bunch. What this helps you do is learn one new groove every day, building 4-way limb independence along the way. Before you know it, you'll be playing syncopated kick snare patterns that help lead you toward being able to creatively improvise, and that's huge. And all of this is happening while building autopilot left foot timekeeping that glues your grooves together. This is so cool. This is so game-changing. This is going to help you out a bunch so that you can play what you hear in your head. That's the big idea here. So if that's you, if that's what you know you need to work on, go dive into that. It's totally free in the description. All right, on with today's lesson. Even if you are a total beginner and you just have no clue how to coordinate things to get the sounds you want out of your hats, I got you covered today, because my goal here is to help you go from maybe just having no clue what to do with your left foot so that you're getting precision out of your hats, from that sort of sloppiness and frustration to getting 4 clean, precise, consistent sounds that you can use every day, that you can use in the songs that you're playing. It's a really powerful, creative musical feeling to be able to get all these different sounds out of your hats, and it's a lot of fun. So let's dive into this. So we've got 4 different sounds we're talking about. These are distinctly different sounds, and of course, we can get crazy with this and talk about, sounds between these sounds, and there are also foot sounds and other crazy things you can do. But we're keeping this very simple and practical. 4 distinct sounds you can get from your hats as you're striking. And another way to say this is 4 different degrees of openness. So it's all based on what our left foot is doing and the angle that our stick is hitting and how hard we're hitting. This is determining, is this a really tight closed sound? Is this a wide open sound? And so we're basically dividing this spectrum of tight to wide open into these 4 main categories, even though you can get crazy and nitty gritty and go in between them. That's up to you to do. We're going to keep this as simple and straightforward as we can. So we're going to go in order from tight sounds to looser sounds and how to nail these consistently where they actually sound really good and they don't sound sloppy. So our first one here, this is how to get that nice tight sound that you need for intricate or more quiet playing. So we're talking this kind of thing. That kind of tightness where either we're playing on the top, like if you're playing on the top of your hats, of course it's going to be super tight. But even when we get down here to a slightly thicker sound, we still want it nice and tight. The issue with this, a lot of drummers have a hard time really keeping this consistent, like keeping a consistently tight sound, because they don't really know what to do with their left foot in order to do it. And that's really the most important thing. So the way we're going to go about this through each of these sounds, first we're going to talk about here's what your foot needs to do to achieve this sound, and then we'll talk about here's what your stick needs to do to achieve this sound, because it's always twofold. And that's why the hi-hats are challenging, obviously, because it's not just hands, it's what's the left foot doing. So this really is coordination. Like, we're talking coordination today. It's a unique kind of coordination because we're not just talking about, playing polyrhythms between a hand and a foot. That's cool, but coordination is anytime you've got to work more than one limb at a time. So maybe you're not thinking about different rhythms, you're just thinking about, what is my left foot doing? How much pressure am I putting on the hi-hat pedal? What's my right hand doing? So this is very much coordination. And this is the kind of thing that a lot of drummers ignore, but not you, because you are here today and you're gonna do this. So first thing, I strongly encourage you to get into the habit of lifting your heel on the hi-hat stand. There are plenty of times when we're not gonna lift our heel. but there are plenty of times when we will. And so it's one of those instruments, one of those pieces of hardware where you can get a lot more out of your hats if you can play heel up and if you can play heel down. It's not like kick drum where I encourage you to, commit to a technique and say, all right, I'm going to play heel down on the kick, or I'm going to play heel up. Though you can do both. You can go back and forth. Plenty of drummers do. I like staying heel down on the kick. Topic for another lesson. But on the hi-hats, be able to do both, and you'll see why by the time we get to the end of this. So in order to do a tight sound, you've got to have the whole weight of your leg onto the pedal, which means you can't be heel down, because if you're heel down, there's only so much pressure you can put without just straining your leg and sitting here going like this the whole time. But if you lift your heel up and you point with your big toe, so you're pretty much pressing the weight of your leg into your big toe onto the foot plate, that keeps these closed super tight. I don't think there's a better way to get a really tight hi-hat sound without having to try too hard. Yeah, you're using some muscles lifting your heel up, but then the weight of your leg naturally goes into the pedal, keeping the hats closed tightly. And by the way, the end of my foot, end of my shoe is about 2 inches from the chain. Generally, you don't want to go any closer than that, but you don't need to be further back than that. With the kick drum, we kind of move around a little depending on what we're doing, but with the hi-hat, you can pretty much stay about right here. If I didn't have shoes on, that's about where my toe would be landing, right on the W of the DW here on a DW 3000 pedal, if you happen to have a DW pedal. But if you don't, totally fine. Aim for that 2-inch mark. And I do recommend having some shoes that have some decent grip. I love these house shoes because they grip so well. I can move, I can slide around if I need to, but they also grip and they don't slide when I don't want them to. So again, totally subjective. I'm just throwing that out there. I like these shoes. But lift your heel up, press down with your big toe. And so that means no matter how you hit the hats with your stick, they're closed pretty tightly. Of course, it's a shorter sound up here and a little bit louder, a little bit thicker down here. But for our general purpose, tight closed hi-hat sound, we don't want to lay into the hats too much, because that does start to open it up. Even if we're putting a lot of pressure down here, it's gonna get thicker and not be such a tight sound if we're using a lot of the weight of the stick. So we want to stay focused with really no more stick than this. We want to be thinking about the neck of the stick. And a big practical application of this tighter kind of sound is if we're playing something like that, or it's just something quick, like think Carter Beaufort with Dave Matthews Band, the kind of hi-hat work he does. He has the super tight closed hi-hat sound all the time where he's playing all this. And he's doing stuff like that all the time. He's playing his hi-hats like a snare drum pretty much, which you can totally do. And so if that's the kind of sound you're wanting, or if you're playing something quick like, then you're going to want to be closer to the end of your stick and not have too much of an angle. If you've got a shallow angle, you still get some rebound. I know it doesn't look like much, but for the edge of hi-hats, that's a lot of rebound, and you need that if you're going to play faster. And I like the sound of this more than just being on the top. Yes, you can play on top, but I think this is the better sound. So slight angle using the neck of the stick, that gives us our super tight sound that we can use for quieter playing, more intricate playing, or faster playing. As you become more advanced and as you grow in your chops here, and you're able to play things like that's the kind of stick position, the kind of foot position, that's the kind of hi-hat sound you're going to want for that type of playing. But let's say you want to thicken things up a little bit. Let's say you're playing sort of a heavy rock groove, but you still want a closed hi-hat. So I'm calling this the closed note with more weight. Give your closed notes more weight, the thicker sort of sound. And really all we're changing here, so we went from heel up, big toe pressed in, and that if we hit harder and we lay into it more, that does get a little bit thicker. But instead of having to press so hard here and hit so hard here, it's like our hand is fighting our leg if that's what we're doing. If we're pressing hard down here but smacking hard here, it's like a tug of war. But if instead, just rest your heel down, so heel is on the foot plate, but we're still actively pressing on the pedal with our foot. We're just no longer pressing with the big toe. We're relaxing a little bit, heel is on the foot plate. At this point, depending on your hi-hats, depending on your stand, this will determine exactly how much pressure you need to put in there. You could lift your heel just a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit, lift your heel like a ½ inch or an inch, but instead of pressing with the big toe, like this, so imagine this is big toe, instead of pressing with the big toe, we're pressing more with the ball of our foot. So it's a more gentle pressure that's further down the foot plate instead of further up. If you press hard further up the foot plate, it's going to be tighter, obviously. If you press further down, it's going to be less tight. So a good way to just get a solid, consistent, thicker closed sound is either to rest your heel but still put some weight from the ball of your foot on the midpoint of the pedal, or still lift your heel just a little bit. And there's a nice thicker sound that might work for louder playing, where maybe we're playing less notes, we're not playing fast, playing less notes, and so they need to fill a little bit more space and have a little bit more drive. That's a great way to do it. So adjust your foot that way, maybe lift your heel just a little bit or rest your heel on the heel plate, but keep some pressure from the ball of your foot on the foot plate. Then instead of hitting the hats right here, adjust a little bit further up. So more from the neck, we were on the neck of the stick. Now let's go from the neck to more like the shoulder, not all the way to the shaft yet, more like the shoulder. So depending on what kind of sticks you've got, these are 5Bs. Most standard sticks, if you've got 5A or 5B, you've got this standard taper, and you pretty quickly go from neck to shoulder. If your sticks have a more gradual taper, then you might want to not quite be to the point where the taper ends. Either way, aim for hitting about right around this spot right here. And your volume will also affect this. If you're hitting harder, then you might want to lay into it a little more, start to push onto the shaft of the stick, but otherwise right around the shoulder. So the point where the taper is about to end is a really good spot. And we're increasing our angle just slightly. We're not as shallow as we were before. So here we were right here for the quick tight playing, but now a little bit thicker, we can go more like this. Again, it's subtle. That's why you got to play around with this. You can watch me do this, but you've got to play along and test it out yourself and figure out, okay, this gives me a sound I like. We can do this. I like this. And so experiment and try it out yourself. But now it's time to move into the open hi-hat territory. Now, there are obviously 1,000 increments of openness. You know, we can get microscopic with this, but like I said, we're not going to go crazy with it. So we're going to go from our thick closed sound here to more of an open sound, but we're not going crazy with it yet. So this one, our sound number 3, I'm calling this the smooth open hat sound that always sounds great. This is our all-purpose open hi-hat sound. This is what I'm doing most of the time. If I'm playing a song that calls for an open hat sound, this is the sound I'm doing. And here's what makes it weird. Here's what makes it interesting. We're not opening them all the way. I tell you all the time, and I know this is controversial in the drumming community, I tell you all the time, adjust your hi-hats where you've got lots of space between them. So you want to have some bottom hat angle. So on the further apart side, 1.5 inches is not too much. On the closer side, maybe a little under 1 inch. But either way, have at least 1 inch of space between your hats. And there's a lot of reasoning for that. It allows you to play better chicks, better splashes, and get more interesting sounds. Ultimately, that's a topic for another lesson. But adjust your hats that way. But that doesn't mean that when we play open sounds, we're popping them open like that. That's not how this works. We're playing open sounds with our left foot. I mean, we're playing them by hitting with the stick, of course, but we're keeping them in place and consistent with our left foot. Now, I know there are metal drummers out there that argue with me on this, and if you are a metal drummer and you're doing double bass, I encourage you to have a second pair of hats, as many metal drummers do, that are adjusted more loosely for the open hat sound. That way you're not having to take your foot all the way off of here and have, you know, wide open like this. I want you to be able to adjust your primary hi-hats like this, and then use your left foot to control the openness. I'm not really a metal drummer. I can do some double bass if I need to. My guess is that you're not, but I know that there are some folks out there who are in that camp, and so I just throw that out there for you. I hear you, I see you there. But I want you to practice getting the open sound with your left foot. And that definitely needs to be a prerequisite before you do the auxiliary hats and all that. I want you to learn how to do this with your left foot. So what we're going to do now, like I said, we're not really going to open the hi-hats. We're actually just going to release the pressure off of them. So here's the left foot setting that I want you to use for playing these open hat notes. So visually, just looking at them, they don't really look open, right? They're not really open. And it looks like my foot is closing the hats. That's the funny thing about this. From your perspective, just watching, seeing what the cymbals look like, seeing what my left foot looks like, you expect to hear this. All that I've changed is I'm no longer actively pressing down on the foot plate. So my heel is down. My heel is down on the heel plate of the pedal. And I'm now hitting with the shaft of the stick. Hitting more with the shaft here, which gives us that more sizzly open sound. And so by just having the cymbals loose like this, That's all we got to do. Now, where a lot of drummers struggle with this is the consistency factor. Like, how do I do this consistently? That's often a big question. How can I do open notes consistently where they each sound the same? And so that's where it's, again, it's totally a coordination thing. You have to practice just keeping that left foot where it needs to be. But even more important than that is listening, because honestly, I think if I could not hear it all, let's say I was completely deaf and I'm playing an open hat sound, yes, I could tell by the feel roughly how loose they are, because you can feel the vibration of the cymbals in your left foot down there, and you can feel how it feels when you hit it. And so I think I could probably get it pretty consistent without hearing, but ultimately it's a big listening thing, where as I'm playing an open hat sound, I'm listening, I'm thinking, are these open notes as long as I want them to be? Like if they sound like this, okay, that was a set length, and then it ended. Does it need to be longer? Does it need to be shorter? And so microscopic adjustments in the amount of pressure that your foot is doing there make a big difference there in note length. Like it really is exponential. Slightly loosen your pressure and suddenly the note length is way longer. And that's what makes this challenging. That's why I want you to focus on this and really be diligent in practicing this. So again, heel down. We're not actively putting pressure on the foot plate, but we're not opening the hats either. We just got them in this sizzly position, and then we're striking at a little more angle, just past where the taper ends, so just past the shoulder, more with the shaft of the stick. Now, something else, you've really got to make sure, and this is especially going to ring true in our fourth hi-hat sound, you've really got to make sure you've got some looseness from your top hi-hat. A lot of beginners, when they're setting up their kits, will adjust the top hi-hat super tight and crank the clutch down so it's tight, because the idea is, well, we don't want anything to fall apart, let's get it all tight. And that's an understandable mistake. But you need your top hi-hat to be loose. And your hats need to be able to do this. Just like sloppy loose like that. Because otherwise, how are you going to get this kind of sound? In order to get that sound, you have to have a loose top hi-hat. So that's really important. Make sure you've got your clutch loosened enough that the top hi-hat can swing around. Not crazy loose, but loose so that it can move a little bit. And make sure you've got a little bit of angle down here on the bottom hat. That way they can really sizzle with each other. And then just play around with those microscopic foot adjustments. Like here's sort of a loose, sloshy sound. We can count that as an open hat sound, but if you slightly lift your foot a tiny bit, release a little more pressure, well then it's pretty much the note length that just goes and goes. And so really pay attention to that. Practice doing that. Sit there and play this sound, then play this sound. And that's literally the best thing I can tell you, because I know you don't see a difference in what my left foot's doing. You have to try this yourself. Figure out how to get that first sound, figure out how to get the second sound, and then just practice doing them consistently, being constantly aware of what your left foot is doing. And that's the key, awareness. That's so important. Active practicing. You're aware of what your left foot is doing while your hands are operating. This is going to prove invaluable to you as you're working on coordination across the board, because your brain is learning how to communicate with your left foot, not in playing rhythms, not in doing leg bounce chicks and things like that, topics for other lessons, but this is going to help you with that because you're building coordination with your left foot. Your brain is learning how to communicate with a foot that's been neglected. I don't want you to neglect your left foot any longer. Let's stop ignoring it. Let's start really fine-tuning it to do what it is made to do here, because this is going to open up a world of creativity for you, I promise. All right, one more sound. Sound number 4, get the hard rock open sound that you hear on records. So the open sound we just did is nice and smooth and it's very all-purpose. But what about like a Foo Fighters open hi-hat sound? What about a Nirvana open hi-hat sound? What about a Killer's open hi-hat sound? Like think about a hard rock band and picture that drummer just wailing away. That open hi-hat sound is a little more open, it's more clangy, it's more metallic, and that works because they're hitting even harder. Now, this requires, again, a little bit more loosening of the left foot, and this most definitely requires a loose top hi-hat, because what'll happen if you don't have some bottom hi-hat angle and a nice loose top hi-hat, as they move apart from each other, they stop interacting with one another. The key to a good open hi-hat sound is every time you hit, both cymbals need to sizzle together. I've seen beginner students before where maybe the bottom hat is too level and the top one's too tight, and they play an open note and it sounds like this, where all we're hearing is the sound of the top cymbal and not the bottom one. It doesn't sound terrible, but that's better when we've got both of them. So in order to get that interaction between both cymbals, you need some bottom hi-hat angle, and then the top one needs to be nice and loose, and this especially rings true, like I said a minute ago, as we're opening farther. So again, we've got our left foot in a heel down position, but we're now lifting until we actually see some visible space here. Maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch, and again, you can adjust to taste, but we're now actually seeing that, okay, these hi-hats are actually open. Now because of this, because they're more open, that means we have to hit the top hi-hat harder, the top cymbal harder, to really get the interaction we need. The more open they are, the harder we have to hit, because if we play softly here, it doesn't sound very good. This is not an open hat sound for soft playing. If you're playing in a small room and you need an open hat sound, go with that third sound like this. That's our soft open hat sound, where they're just barely loose. But if you want that wide open, that kind of sound, we definitely have to open up a little bit more. So for that, because this is getting loud, I'm gonna put my in-ears in. I always encourage ear protection when it comes to stuff like this. Don't wear your ears out. I don't want your ears ringing after you practice this. Put in some earplugs, in-ears, earbuds, AirPods, whatever you got, just something to bring volumes down. You'll still be able to hear fine. And actually, you might be able to hear the nuance of this better with some ear protection. And then just practice figuring this out, what amount of openness works for me. I'll show you kind of a couple of slight adjustments, some different positions that might work. So really those were two different degrees of openness. One was more like right here, the other was a little bit more. And I think if you start going further than that, it starts getting a little too clingy, a little too metallic, because the whole idea is we want lots of sizzle. We want a rich sounding open hi-hat sound. And so you don't want to go too far. So just pay attention to that. The cool thing about this fourth sound is you can get visual feedback here. You can see where your hi-hats are. Are they staying the same amount of openness? Match up what you're seeing with what you're feeling. So then your left foot can learn to do that on demand without you seeing the hi-hats, and know that, okay, if I go like this without looking, we know there's about a 1/4 inch of space here. That's what you want to be able to do. So here's what I'm going to do real quick as we wrap up. I'm going to play through these 4 different sounds. I'm just going to play a couple bars of each. We'll do the tight sound, and then that thicker closed sound, and then the all-purpose smooth open sound, and then the wide open clingy open sound. So here we go. I'm going to do 2 bars of each just so you can hear them back to back and specifically watch what my left foot is doing. And so you could also hear there where if you're in a really loud scenario, you do have to open them more, because without them opened up, the note length just isn't long enough, even with our more all-purpose sound. That smoother open hi-hat sound, where they're loose but not open, works when you're playing more softly. But if you're really hitting hard, you really do have to start opening up a little bit more to maintain that. So you can see the application there and how you can just use whatever you need for the volume you're playing and for the song you're playing. That last one is definitely the hard rock open hat sound that's super loud versus the more calm one that you could use for softer playing. So as we wrap up here, let me know in the comments, which of these 4 sounds do you feel is most practical to you? I'll tell you, my 2 most practical are the second one and the third one. So the second one was the thicker closed sound, and then the more all-purpose, more chill open sound. Like that. The super tight I don't use as much unless I'm playing something really quick. The wide open, a lot of times I'm not playing loud enough, rock and roll enough to really use that. But tell me which 2 or which one is your favorite. What do you think you're going to be using the most? And what do you need to specifically practice to really master that sound? My guess is that it's going to come down to that left foot, but maybe it's more the stick. Like we've talked about stick placement and angle. Which part of the stick are you using to strike the edge of the hats? What kind of angle are you using? Is that something you need to focus on? Either way, whether it's stick or left foot, pinpoint that, focus on that, and you're going to get way better, more high quality, consistent hi-hat sounds, I promise you. So, hey, I hope this has been really helpful. I hope this has been especially game-changing if you're a beginner and you're just trying to figure out the hi-hats and not be frustrated with them anymore. And hey, if you are, I'm proud of you for digging into this and really working that left foot, because like I said, so many drummers ignore the left foot, especially beginners, and they come back to it years later realizing, I can't do anything with my left foot. I want to be able to be more creative and keep time here, but I just can't. This has been a really great fundamental first step to that. So congratulations, I'm proud of you for diving into this. Take action and work at this stuff. Know that you can do this. I hope this has been super valuable to you. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next lesson. Stay non-glamorous.